Good morning, third graders. Today is the day that I'll show you how to start weaving on your CD. We have our CD with our paper covering and also 13 strands of yarn. I'm going to double check my 13 just to make sure I have that much. I'm going to start with putting my thumb over one of the strands, and then I'm going to count that one. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. So as long as you have 13 or an odd number, you're set. The back can have some tape on it. You might have some knots and other things and your name, but the front is really our focus. So that part we want clean, looking nice. You can go to the yarn cart and get, I would start out with 1 wingspan's length of yarn. You could also sort of shop for yarn in this scrap bucket. A lot of these have about 1 wingspan's length in the different colors, so you can pick one if you'd like. One thing I want to show you that's really important to know how to do for this project is to thread a needle. And I have some plastic needles and some metal needles. And I learned how to thread a needle from my grandma, Gert, so I'm going to call this the Grandma Gert trick. There's a really nice opening in each of these needles, so this shouldn't be too challenging, but it will, if you've never ever threaded a needle, it will be probably tricky at first. So you'll take your needle, and we want to make sure that we're keeping track of these. So at the end of the class period, I'm going to count. I have 25 in this container, and I should have 25 before you leave today. What you'll do is take a little bit of your yarn and kind of wrap it around the needle, and this is called the head of the needle. You're going to pinch it really tight as you slide it off of the head, and then you're going to wiggle this is the Grandma Gert trick, wiggle this whole loop through the head, and you'll pull it through. Okay, so I'll show that again. Put the yarn around the needle, squeeze it tight with your thumb and finger together, and then wiggle it through so that a loop is going through your needle, and then you'll pull it tight. So this side you'll have is your needle side. Your other side is going to be what you tie on to your CD, but we don't want to have knots in the front, so we're going to tie it onto the back. And you can pick any spot you'd like, going under my black, and then I'm going to tie a double knot here. You can see my shadow in the CD. So 1 and 2. Double knot. If this little extra part drives you crazy, you can tape it or cut it, but this should be double knotted so it doesn't go anywhere. Then you're going to take your needle and dive through the center with all your extra yarn so that now you have all of your weaving on the front and you're ready to go. If you have a clear spot where you can start, like see how my yarn is kind of over on the right side here, this is giving me a good clear spot to start. I wouldn't want to start over here because then my yarn is going to cross over the hole. So I'm going to pick a spot, and I'm going to start with under, over, under, over, and my needle is only so long, so I can only go under, over so many times. And I'm pulling my strand of yarn all the way through. If you don't have an odd number of warp lines, my black lines are my warp lines, if you don't have an odd number, your weaving is going to be goofed up. So I went under here, so I'm going to go over this one, under this one, and I'm going in a circle. And each time I kind of have to pull through and get rid of that slack. And it's kind of frustrating because at first you're not going to notice a clear circle. It's going to take a couple passes around the CD to see a clear circle. Okay, it's looking a little more clear. And you don't want to pull it too tight, but you want it to be consistent all the way around. Now, since I have 13, I went under this black one, my first go around. So now notice that I'm going over it, and I'm switching so that I go opposite of what I did the first circle. And you'll continue to do this until you run out of yarn or until you want to switch colors. And that's going to be totally up to you when you do that. If you notice that you make a mistake and maybe you go under 2 in a row, you'll have to try to take out your weaving and fix it, because I'll be grading your consistency and your under-over pattern. So there I go again. I'm going to go under this one because I went over it before. Over, under. And I'm staying in that circle, continually following that pattern. Now, since I'm not pulling it real tight, you're actually noticing a black and orange pattern going on. If you pull it a little tighter, you might end up getting rid of that pattern a little bit. So you have to decide what you think you like. And as you continue working, if you are tight with your pattern, you won't see any of your warp lines anymore. And if you're loose with your pattern, then you might see some of your warp lines. Eventually we can add buttons and beads to this project, and you can weave your entire CD or you can weave about half. Continually trying to do the Grandma Gert strategy today and keeping your yarn on your needle. That's tricky too. Good luck.